Welcome to this live coverage of the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge for 2018. And our coverage from start to finish, I'm joined by two celebrated Australian sailors, Olympic silver medalist in women's match racing, Olivia Price, and Peter Shipway, 31 Rolex Sydney Hobarts, 5 Line Honours victories and 2 handicap wins. But how good is this going to be with 4 Super Maxis, 4 100-footers, Olivia, particularly in that pre-start manoeuvring?
Oh, we're definitely going to see some action here today, Gordon. With the 4 Super Maxis on the line, I bet we're going to see a whole bunch of match racing and a couple of manoeuvres, especially for that start.
Well, I saw how spectacular you were in match racing at the London Olympic Games in Weymouth. What can we expect then?
We're definitely going to see a 4-boat pre-start for match racing, basically. So we have 2 pre-starts wrapped all up in one, plus 3 other slightly smaller boats on the line. It's definitely going to be fun.
And Shippy, what about the weather conditions? What part will they play?
Well, at the moment, Gordon, it's for a dying southerly. I think the breeze will be lighter rather than stronger. The breeze at the moment is about 15 knots, forecast to go down to about 10 knots. So it'll be a pretty tactical race, especially on the beat back from Manly to Shark Island.
Who's your favourite?
I'm leaning towards Wild Oats.
I thought you were going to sit on the fence there. But Johnny Winning summed it up beautifully when he said with these 100-footers, it's a bit like driving a semi-trail around a go-kart track.
Yes, well, I guess it is. I mean, and probably if they crash, it'll be very expensive. But I think out there today, it'll be tricky, as Olivia said, especially at the start. You have to be very careful, and of course, we don't need to remember what happened last year with the Sydney Hobart start with Comanche and Wild Oats, but the tacticians have got to be on their game today for sure, and the start very critical because it's such a short course.
I feel very privileged to be in such exalted company. The Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. Stay with us. And we are now live and entering into the exclusion zone just off Point Piper. Conditions out here are still light but showing signs of freshening from the southeast. And these big 100-footers, the Super Maxis, 4 of them, the first time ever we've seen that in the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. It's going to be fantastic racing out here. Olivia Price and Peter Shipway will be driving the camera cat as well as commentating here this afternoon. How good is this?
It's fantastic out here, Gordon. We've got probably between 8 and 11 to 12 knots from the southeast. The sun is making its way through the clouds at stages, but it's looking like everyone's getting pretty prepped for this race. Not long to go now.
Peter, Wild Oats 11, Blackjack, Infotrack, Scallywag, the 4 Super Maxis, plus Winning Appliances, Wild Oats 10 and Naval Group.
Yeah, it's going to be a drag race to the first mark, that's for sure, down off Canai Point near Manly, Gordon. It's going to be a close reach in this east-southeasterly breeze. It's about 8 to 10 knots, maybe gusting a little bit more. As Olivia said, the sky's trying to clear, but I don't think we'll see much more breeze throughout the day. So the start's going to be absolutely critical, just to try and get clear and put your nose ahead. And if you can get around Canai Point mark in front, you could dictate the rest of the race, because it's going to be basically a one-legger back on Port Tack up to Shark Island, but not too many passing lanes, but which makes the start even more critical, Olivia.
Yeah, so on that we've got the start starting off Point Piper at 12:30. So then everyone heads to Canai Point up near Manly, and they'll go around that at a right-hand turn before coming back to Shark Island and rounding that, heading back up to Manly at Canai Point, and then final rounding is Shark Island before heading straight to the finish off Sydney Opera House.
And there's Scallywag, Sun Hung Kai Scallywag, David Witt, and one of the fancies here this afternoon, one of the Super Maxis. And David Witt just back from the King's Cup in Phuket in Thailand, where he was campaigning SHK Scallywag, which is the big 60-foot trimaran formerly owned by Sean Langman. And Wild Oats now coming into shot here as well with Wild Oats 10.
I think these lighter conditions will suit perhaps more Wild Oats 11 and Blackjack as opposed to perhaps Scallywag and Infotrack. They're narrower boats, and whereas Infotrack, once we get a look at her, she's a big, wide boat, and she would like probably a bit more breeze than we're seeing at the moment. So I would think if you had to put an early prediction in, you'd probably look at perhaps Wild Oats and Blackjack. Of course, Blackjack won this corresponding race last year. Strong crew.
On that, Peter, so Blackjack's also extended their keel a little bit this year in the lead up to the 2018 Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. So it'll be interesting to see how the two skinnier of the four Super Maxis here, Wild Oats 11 and Blackjack, match up against each other in this drag race down to Kenai Point. So we're seeing some beautiful shots of Wild Oats 11 and Wild Oats 10 here, just prepping themselves ready before the start of the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. If you feel free to share our live stream of this race using the hashtag Grinders Coffee SBBC, and we'll join in the conversation with you. Feel free to ask some questions on our Facebook live stream. We'll be trying to answer them as we get through this race.
Yes, the 2018 SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, proudly sponsored by Grinders Coffee. Grinders Coffee, through their master roasters, is dedicated to sourcing, roasting and delivering the best single origin and blended coffees in Australia. So great to have them on board for what is the 25th edition of the Big Boat Challenge. And it's now known as the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. SOLAS, the safety of sailors at sea, safety of lives at sea charity, and Dave Kellett is the chairman of that charity, going down on his 45th Rolex Sydney Hobart this year as the head of the radio team on the JBW, the radio relay vessel.
So we have 7 entrants in today's Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. So Blackjack, Infotrack, Sung Hung Kai, Scallywag and Wild Oats 11 are our 100-foot Super Maxis. We also have Naval Group, which is a Reichel Pugh 65 owned by Sean Langman. Also on today's lineup is Wild Oats 10, aka Ocean Respect Racing, skippered by Stacey Jackson. And then finally we have Winning Appliances, the Carkeek 60, formerly known as Ichiban, but Winning Appliances for this Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge and the 2018 Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race.
It's a great shot of Wild Oats, 8-time line honours winner in the Sydney Hobart race, and she will be right on the pace today, you would think.
Yes, and her 14th straight season of world-class performance. Mark Richards said it's unprecedented for a boat of their size in his lifetime. 269 Hobart races going down this year in the Rolex Sydney Hobart.
Yes, they've got a bit to prove this year, Gordon. They've had 3 very disappointing years in the Rolex Sydney Hobart race. They've 2 retirements with gear failure, and then of course the catastrophe last year when they got tangled up with Comanche in Sydney Heads, and they got across the line first but were penalised an hour because of that infringement. But today's another day, this is another year, and I think they're very determined to make amends this year, and it would be a good start if they could do very well in this challenge race today. But the starting line is just at the mouth of Double Bay between Clark Island and Point Piper.
Can you go over to the naval boat?
And we're an outgoing tide delivery, I think, today. And how far for the start have we got? What time to the start? We've got
just over 20 minutes.
20 minutes,
yeah.
So still plenty of time. And the boats still haven't got headsails up. They'll be just eyeing up the conditions and what sail they can carry, which is critical on that first leg to Kenai, because they don't want to be changing sails down there. They get the sail right, on the first leg, well, you're in good shape.
Yes, Pete, it's definitely going to be about sail choices today, and how far you can carry a certain sail all the way down to Canai, the mark down at Canai there. So I think there's a lot of thought going into which sail is going to go up on all of these boats. Saw before a bit of chopping and changing from support ribs onto yachts. So there's definitely some heavy thought process going on to try and take advantage of what we've got, these conditions in the southeasterly, lighter breezes.
We're now going to hear from Sean Langman, who's the owner and skipper of Naval Group. They have a combination of Australian and French sailors. Sean will be competing in his 28th Rolex Sydney Hobart. So great to have you with us in this Grinders Coffee telecast for the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. Sean Langman.
Well, welcome aboard Naval Group today. This is the second sail of this team. We came together just 48 hours ago. Now we're straight into a super maxi boat race and one of the small boats out here. This is my favourite race of the sailing season. It's been a few years since I've been here. Really looking forward to lining up against the big guys and hopefully getting a reasonable result on IRC. Very much a reaching course today. So it'll be a very, very, very quick race. We're expecting to have a good race with the ladies on board the 66 and also the 60 and just see what these super maxis can do against us. So on my right here I have Jeff. His real name is Jean-Francois, which I cannot say very well. So he's now become Jeff. So he's on the main sheet. We're working on our Australian, not our English, to sail together. As I say, the last 48 hours have been a bit of fun together. We're really looking forward to today. We're just going to tack back now. Stand by to tack. Okay, tacking and 3, 2, 1, helm down. Okay, slight increase of wind now, so we're still sticking with, like the rest of the fleet, we'll start with a jib in the groove but not on the lock so that we can get it down quickly. Also the code 0 will be up in the air and furled, so we're a little bit unsure about how good our furl is, so we're going to wait until pretty much the deck before we haul it up. I think today it's really going to be about he who furls the best will do the best. So yeah, we're a little bit nervous about that because, as I say, it's only the second time we've sailed together, and yesterday the first time that we've actually tried a hoist and deploy of the code 0. So really, our crew boss here, Josh, it's up to him to keep the tempo happening right in the middle of the boat. Okay. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, Sean Langman, he's an absolute legend in Australian sailing. In his 27 Sydney Hobarts, he's had success on the largest yachts and also the smallest. And he's had several races in the beautiful Maluka of Kamandi, which came out of the Port Hewitt Yacht Club in Tasmania. Beautifully restored vessel. And we're now getting to within 15 minutes of the start of the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge for 2018. But yeah, some brilliant pictures and dialogue there from Sean Langman aboard Naval Group.
So we're starting to see plenty of spectators come out to watch this Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. It's great to see everyone out here. It is one of the best days on the harbour. It's fantastic. We're seeing a whole lot of people on the Point Piper side and also the Clark Island side. So the course, as we were saying before, is heading to Canai Point after the start at 12:30. And the thing about this race is that the exclusion zones are at the rounding marks and the start line. But other than that, there's a lot of spectators involved, and there's a bit of tactics needing to be involved from the yachts to have to deal with all these boats on the harbour wanting to get up close and personal with all the rock stars of this race.
Okay, well the Rolex Sydney Hobart Village is now open at the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia at Rushcutters Bay. The brand new Cruising Yacht Club, I've got to say, it's undergone extensive renovations. It really is a brilliant setup, and you've got access to many of the Rolex Sydney Hobart boats, and it's an opportunity for you, the public, if you're in Sydney or coming down from the country areas, to visit the Rolex Village here at the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. And don't forget to get involved in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Tag your content and comments with the Grinders Coffee SBBC hashtag. And Olivia Price, Olympic silver medalist in women's match racing at the London Olympics, will be looking after all the social media, because Peter Shipway and I are just totally incapable of doing that.
Dinosaur's the word, Gordon.
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, so Peter's doing a great job of driving us around here on the camera cap for the live stream, and we'd love you to get involved with the conversation. So as Gordon said, hashtag Grinders Coffee SBBC, and we'll be answering all your questions here this afternoon of what is a fantastic day on the harbour. We can't wait to have a chat to you, so let us know who you think is going to be crossing the line first, and even who will be taking out the overall win today.
And Olivia, when do things really start to get interesting here as we approach the start of the race? You as a former Olympic match racer, your adrenaline must be starting to pump up now.
Oh, I'm getting really excited. It will be, with 400-foot Super Maxis on the line, it's definitely going to be, as I said earlier, a match race of all match races. So they're all going to be vying for the best position on the line, and they're going to be wanting to try and breathe and get their air forward. So whoever makes that first jump off the line is going to have an advantage in this southeasterly breeze, because it will be coming out of Rose Bay and all of the bays heading up towards Kenai Point. So it's going to be important for each 100-footer, and also for the overall win. It's going to be important for them to get a jump on the rest of the fleet, and so this pre-start is going to be really, really important as they jostle for position on this line here in Port Piper.
So Peter, just talking about the course at Kenai Point below North Head, and then a beat back around Shark Island, another off the breeze run back to North Head, and then we finally finish up at the Opera House. So that's a spectacular vantage point for people wanting to see the race here today.
With this breeze, Gordon, it's going to be a very quick race. They're really going to take off down the harbour towards Kenai Point. They'll be close reaching, and what we're seeing is most of the boats still we've got about 10 minutes to go. They've just got their working headsails up now and putting their reaching sails on the furlers up preset, ready for the reach down to Kenai. And we're just watching the fleet now. They're just all pretty calm. Some have got headsails up, some haven't. And we're in Double Bay at the moment. That's Wild Oats, we can see. and she's just dropped her reaching sail down, and they're maybe changing sails. They've got plenty of time. There's Wild Oats 11, that's the big boat, 8-time Sydney Hobart race winner, and Mark Richards at the helm. But all these boats, all 7, have got terrific crews and terrific helmsmen, because you've got to be on your game today. If you're a boat length behind at the start, that could cost you the race. So they'll be right on the line, and these boats, they really take a lot of handling. They're absolutely competent crews from the bow to the stern, and you can see Wild Oats pulling away now to probably jibe. She's running back towards Clark Island, and it just picks up speed in this breeze that's about no more than 8 knots, and she just powered away then at about doing 12, 14 knots. So there's plenty of power, plenty of speed, and plenty of room for error. And but these crews and the skippers, the tacticians, they're world class. They'll be right on their game, and I would think we'll see 7 bow to bow on the starting line.
And Peter, she really is the people's boat, built by the late Bob Oakley, a famous Australian sailor and businessman, and now owned and raced by his son Sandy. And if memory serves me correctly, Bob was on board for her maiden race in 2005, Peter. I think you were too. Was Bob on board in 2005?
For the Hobart?
Yes.
No, he wasn't. He never did a
done
Hobart.
a
No.
I know
on this boat. He's
on
done
this boat, yeah.
Hobarts on his smaller boats, but he never did it on the big Wild
But you
Oats.
were on board in 2005?
Yes.
Yes, and you beat the race record of Yendes. And
No, correction. I didn't do it that year. I did
Right.
it the next 3 years.
What,
on
you
Wild
weren't
Oats.
invited, or?
They thought I was too old then, but then they got me back.
They saw the error of their ways. But it was a sensational race in 2005. It captured the imagination of the Australian public because it was a treble. It was line honours, a new race record, and handicap honours.
Just blackjack there. That's former boaters Alfa Romeo that got line honours in the 2009 Sydney Hobart race when owned by Neville Crichton. And as I said earlier, she won this race last year. Very experienced crew. Mark Bradford, the skipper. Peter Harburg from Queensland owns the boat. Brad Butterworth, 4-time America's Cup winner, is the tactician. And they will be hard to beat in this race. But she's undergone a new fin keel for this year's summer racing. She got line honours in the Sydney to Gold Coast race. And the thing is, Olivia, with this race today, this Big Boat Challenge, it's such a short race, such a quick race, you just can't afford one little mistake. Sail handling mistake, a poor start, it'll really hurt you.
Yes, definitely, Peter. So I was just thinking, we're talking about the tacticians and the skippers and those sort of decision-making processes, but we've also got to think about the boat handling and the crew work that goes on all of these boats, because it is a race in the harbour. The Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge is a harbour race, so we need to make sure that, crews need to make sure that they are well on their game. They can't miss a sheet on, they can't miss a deploy or anything like that. It's going to be really important to really work as a team on board each of these 7 boats, because that is one mistake and that's the end of your race. You're not going to be able to catch up on such a short race. So we're definitely coming up to what's going to be our warning signal. So we will get a 5-minute warning signal very shortly, and we'll see that on your screen with the timer.
What's interesting is the number of spectator craft, as you're saying earlier, Olivia. Half an hour ago there weren't many boats out, but now we've got a terrific fleet of spectators, and just hopefully they'll behave themselves, because they've got to get behind the exclusion, outside the exclusion zone, and hope they all behave, because it's a lot of boats both to windward and leeward of the starting line.
Well, it is history making, isn't it? Because you've got the 4 Super Maxis for the first time in the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, proudly sponsored by Grinders Coffee for the first time. And that's going to cause a lot of excitement as we see these big 100-footers engaging in that 5 minutes before the start, after the warning signal, which is due in probably just under a minute now.
So we're just looking at InfoTrack here at the moment. We haven't really seen much of them this afternoon, so it's going to be interesting to see where they position themselves on the line. They've had a bit of training in the last little while, and there's our 5-minute gun. So 5 minutes to go until the start of the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. Pete, where do you think you'll be starting in this race if you were on board some of these yachts?
I don't think you'd be up at the committee boat, I wouldn't think. I think you'd want to be probably a third of the way down the line. There looks a bit more pressure down there. The line's pretty square to the course, so there's not any real advantage end-wise. It's just breeze-wise, I think, Olivia, and I would think, you know, a third to halfway down would be the go. I think if you're too far up to windward near the committee boat, you'd be getting a bit of a lee out of Point Piper. It's all about wind pressure in a day like this. There's not much wind. Probably at the start, we're lucky to have 10 knots. It's probably 8 knots maximum. We're watching InfoTrack just lining up, and that's there's 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Naval going astern of her with the lighter colour mainsail, and right in the background Blackjack, and InfoTrack just going down, having a look at. She hasn't got much pressure there, has she?
No, definitely sitting flat in the water at the moment. I think there's definitely been a decline in pressure in the last 5 minutes that we've been talking here. We were talking earlier this afternoon about wind shear and the fact that in this southeasterly there's a lot of eastern coastline and on the eastern shore of Sydney Harbour. So it's going to be interesting to see where tacticians decide to place their boats in regards to that, and how much they think the pressure is going to jump over the headland from out to sea, or whether it's going to be blocked.
Well, don't forget to share the love. Hit the share button to help show your friends and family what you're watching and what the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge is all about.
So some great footage as we're looking up over the start line. We've got Song Hong Kai Scallywag to windward, sitting there ready for positioning. In the bottom left of your screen is Wild Oats 10. They've got everything up and ready to go, it looks like.
Sun Hong Kai Scallywag hasn't got its conventional jib up. She's just going to unfurl a reaching sail, put the hammer down, do a time on distance start, where all the other boats can do a little bit better manoeuvring because they've got their jibs up. But Scallywag has just got 2 headsails foiled, rolled up, and she's going to come at blistering speed. If she gets it right, she'll be in good shape. We've got coming up to 2 minutes to the start of the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. We'll be getting a go. Pete and I have been discussing how important this start is going to be, so I'm sure that everyone will be aiming to be on the line at go. Yeah, they're stacked up towards the leeward end. They're halfway down and a bit further to leeward. InfoTrack looks slow. She's going back towards Clark Island. The rest of the fleet, majority are on starboard already setting up. Scallywag still hasn't got a headsail unfurled. I think the duel here, Olivia, will be between Blackjack and Wild Oats by the look of it. They've started to engage themselves now. There's the minute. Okay, so Blackjack heading up, Wild Oats to leeward. Yeah, Blackjack will be about halfway up the line.
Wild Oats is definitely looking to be the most lured boat of the 100-footers, even of this whole fleet for the start here. InfoTrack is probably the closest to the line. We have 40 seconds to go. We've got less than 40 seconds now. InfoTrack is still heading up, so we've got Wild Oats to leeward. Naval Group coming in on a reaching angle and just setting up behind the 100-footers. InfoTrack running the line. Sung Hung Kai Scallywag sitting to windward of InfoTrack. Blackjack the most windward end of the 100-footers, with Winning Appliances just to leeward of them.
Okay,
10 seconds.
There goes
10
the unfurl on
seconds.
Wild Oats. Info Track has locked Scallywag out, and so is Winning Appliances. Winning Appliances is going to get a great start to windward. Wild Oats clear to leeward. All clear. They're racing. Here they come.
That's a beautiful shot on your screen there. You can see that everyone was ready and raring to go.
I'll give the start to Winning Appliances, but she's one of the smaller boats, or the smallest boat out here, and she's going to get quickly run over. But I think Wild Oats of the big boats has got the start there, Olivia.
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
yes.
They were the leeward end of that line, and they've, as I was talking about, they've punched their bow forward of the rest of the fleet here.
Yeah, they got two highs, Scallywag and Blackjack's right in the mix as well.
Yes, it's only a third of a boat length between Blackjack and Wild Oats 11.
Game on.
Well, a brilliant start by Winning Appliances. John Winning Jr. on the wheel. Senior is also there, the former world 18-foot skiff champion. And you could see the skiff boys really coming to the fore with a brilliant start in the Khaki 60. But it's Wild Oats 11 and Blackjack at the front of the fleet now. And they're going to go neck and neck on this first run down to that first mark under North Head.
You can see Info Track, as we expected, a bit gluey in these conditions. She needs a bit more wind. Scallywag did not get a good start. And Wild Oats 10 and Naval also got a bit clobbered there. So we'll get down the track a bit and see how we go.
Peter, Blackjack also had a few problems there with Spectator craft. The maritime vessel is trying to clear the Spectator craft away from that exclusion zone, the imaginary line beyond the start line, and that cost them a little bit of ground.
Yeah, well, race on at the start. Blackjack slightly behind and slightly to windward of Wild Oats.
So we can see Winning Appliances there. They've got a pretty full spinnaker
Yes.
up on their boat,
Yeah.
so you can see that they are getting a little bit dragged down and will be rolled by Infotrack, who's just come into the pressure that's coming out of Rose Bay.
More a running spinnaker they've got, isn't it, than a
Yeah.
reaching spinnaker, where you can see the 2 leaders, nice, beautiful, full-size reaching sails. And they're screaming off down off Shark Island now.
Yeah,
This looks like a repeat of last year with these two in the SOLAS
Yep.
Big Boat Challenge last year, where they went neck and neck, and eventually Blackjack was able to round the first mark.
They're very evenly matched in speed, these two boats, and quite similar in design. They're quite narrow boats when you compare them to the likes of Infotrack and Comanche, that's not out here today. But we'll try and catch up, and they're smoking down the harbour at the moment.
Yes, they are. So you can see Wild Oats is probably 100-foot boat length in front of Blackjack as they go past Shark Island and head towards Nielsen Park. What we'll probably see is a little die in the pressure as they get towards that point. There was that burst as they came out of Rose Bay, and it's just going to be about using the modes and using their sails and their trim to adjust to the pressure differences across this race course today.
And bottom left there is Winning Appliances, and further towards the western shore is Hung Song Kai, Scallywag.
She's done okay down there. She got a bit clobbered early, but she's got clear air down there. She's got a monstrous reaching sail on. She's got good pressure, where the 2 leaders, although they've got back into good pressure now, they're bow down. They'll be a bit below the course, but that won't worry them.
No, so there'll be a bit of a, it'll be interesting as they get towards what we call Sound Pigs here on Sydney Harbour as to what the pressure's like and what the angles are going to be of the 100-footers sailing. So as we were talking about, Scallywag is down to leeward and will have a hotter angle, a faster angle, most likely coming up towards the line of the windward boats that started at the windward end of the start line, such as Infotrack, Wild Oats 11 and Blackjack.
So it's Wild Oats 11, just a boat length and a half ahead of Blackjack. Then probably in third place at the moment, Sun Hong Kai Scallywag, closer to the western shore, but in good pressure off there to the left. They're followed by Infotrack, Winning Appliances, Wild Oats 10 and Naval Group, the two smaller boats towards the rear of the fleet at the moment.
So Matthew Colkin has just asked on Facebook why Comanche is not racing in the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, and this race is elective, so it's all the big boats in the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race are invited to compete in this race, and they've opted to not compete today. And I know that they've been doing probably I know they've done a lot of training over the past few months with their Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race crew. So today probably wasn't necessary and wasn't penciled into their training program. They are professional sailors on board these yachts, and you know, there are days where they just don't need to do it and don't feel like it's necessary.
And she's probably not suited to the agile racing in Sydney Harbour. It's tight, it's congested, and Wild Oats 11 and Blackjack far better suited to around the boys racing in Sydney Harbour. But Jim Cooney and Comanche are the favourites for this year's Rolex Sydney Hobart.
What we're seeing on the race course here, guys, is that Wild Oats and Blackjack are soft in pressure. They're down off Nielsen Park, Bottle and Glass area, approaching Watson's Bay, and they've got to heat up for pressure, same as Infotrack. But down to leeward, barrelling along is Scallywag. She's got a monstrous reaching sail up, as I said earlier, and she's laying down the course. She's got nice pressure. The Spectator fleet is sort of getting a bit mixed up with the race fleet, but you can see Wild Oats and Blackjack both heated way up for pressure. They've run out of it down off Watson's Bay. Infotrack the same. Scallywag's now putting the bow up slightly, but she's done okay down there, Scallywag.
And David Witt is not intimidated by Spectator craft. He came within centimetres of the ferry a couple of years ago, didn't he?
That's right.
Yes, 2 years ago at the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, Dave Witt definitely took one a little bit tight.
Well, they've undergone a big transformation. They've got a new keel on the boat and a whole set of new North sails. And Michael Coxon, the principal of North Sails in this part of the world, in Asia and Australia and New Zealand, he's sailing on board today, and a very fine yachtsman. He knows Sydney Harbour extremely well. And there's Scallywag. She's now run out of pressure, so she's got to go bow up. And now Wild Oats and Blackjack have put the bow down. You can see Scallywag there. She's approaching the Western Channel Pie Light, just coming into view there on Sydney Harbour. But at the moment it's Wild Oats. A couple of boat lengths ahead. Infotrack, can't see her at the moment. She's headed right up. There's Winning Appliances, great shot. She is hammering along. She'll be very favoured by handicap result today. She's got a very good handicap compared to these other big boats, and I think you'd almost put your house on her winning the handicap section.
Yes, definitely. As a 60-footer, has been. They haven't done much sailing together as a crew, but that start was fantastic, and they seem to be working quite well together.
Yeah, well, Troy Tyndall, as skipper of Wild Oats 10 last year, he's on board Winning Appliances, and they finished only, I think, 6-7 hours behind Wild Oats 11, which was first across the line, but then penalised an hour to give the race to Comanche. She's now skippered by the all-girl crew, Stacey.
What we're seeing here is a big split in the fleet, that Wild Oats 11 and Scallywag are going to leeward or the western side of Sound Pigs, whereas Infotrack is heated up so much she's going to the eastern side of Sound Pigs off Camp Cove. She's still got good pressure, but it's very soft here, Olivia, isn't it? The breeze, it's chopped up a lot by the Spectator craft. There's a lot of choppy water. The breeze be lucky to be 10 knots. It's probably 8-9 knots at most. And Infotrack looks okay at the moment. He's got pressure to put the bow down.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to depend on how this pressure comes over South Head and Watson's Bay here for InfoTrack. They will punch forward into the open air of between North and South Head on Sydney Harbour, and hopefully for them it pushes them down a little bit further and there's a little bit of pressure increase so that they try to get down to the line of Wild Oats 11, Blackjack, and now Sung Hung Kai Scallywag, who have moved their way up to the line of the two leading Supermaxis.
Yeah, it's a chance meeting really between Lee Seng Huang at the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club and David Witt. It was a corporate event, and the former Ragamuffins crew were about to break up with the 100-footer, and Lee Seng Huang, who used to live above the Cruising Yacht Club, he said it's been an expensive curiosity coming into racing and buying the 100-footer, but they've campaigned very successfully.
What we're seeing here on screen is that's InfoTrack, top of screen left. She went high, as Olivia alluded to. The good book says that you will get less pressure under the cliffs running down to South Reef, and that's what we're seeing now, that she really can't heat up anymore, whereas Wild Oats and Blackjack can, and Scallywag's coming up their exhaust pipe. I would think advantage Wild Oats and Blackjack at the moment.
So it was interesting just on the screen there, Peter, we had the tracking on for everyone to view, so it's interesting to see where everyone's been and where they're planning on going. So make sure that you follow that link also, as well as our live stream. It's going to be interesting this next 20 minutes when they turn that corner at Canai Point and then head back towards Shark Island.
The Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge is a key lead-in event to the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race on Boxing Day. And for all the latest information on Australia's premier yachting event, visit www.rolexsydneyhobart.com.
Yeah, we're seeing InfoTrack really suffering now. She's putting the bow up. She's almost VMG running. I think she's probably, at this stage, may have to jibe even to get down to the mark at Canai. And highly experienced ocean racing crew on InfoTrack. They've got Bow Becking from the Netherlands, been around the world 8 or 9 times. We've got Stu Bannatyne from New Zealand. He's a 4-time winner of the Volvo Ocean Race. Andrew Cape, Australian navigator. He's been around the world 6 or 7 or maybe 8 times, but they're really suffering now. But it's Wild Oats that leads the fleet towards Canai, and she will be 4 or 5 boat lengths ahead of Blackjack. Scallywag will be third, honing in on them at the moment as they're across in the middle of Sydney Heads. They're off Middle Head, for those that know the harbour, and they've got 5-6 minutes to go to the Canai turning mark. But InfoTrack is now really suffering by taking the high route. She's up high and she will have to jibe to get down to the leeward mark.
Yes, Peter, that's probably not great for InfoTrack. They wouldn't be happy with that decision to go to the eastern side of Sound Pigs here on Sydney Harbour. There hasn't been a big advantage by coming out and getting this pressure. They really lost out and sat still for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, we're just seeing a jibe now, Olivia. She's in the middle of the head. She's got to jibe back onto port, and that will put her a fair way back behind the 3 leading maxis. David Witt's done a good job with Scallywag.
Yeah, he's certainly been the big improver, sticking to that western shore, and he's been in better pressure over the last few minutes and is not that far behind Blackjack now. So they're the 3 lead yachts in the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge for 2018. Wild Oats 11, Blackjack, Sun Hung Kai, Scallywag, chasing hard.
And we'll see InfoTrack coming across now, right of screen on Port Jibe. And there's Wild Oats just at the turning mark now. So she's back on the breeze and a very, very nice lead.
Yes, Peter, they definitely extended once they got out into this sound area on Sydney Harbour. it was tight off the line and between Blackjack and Wild Oats, and they had to fight really hard. So it's really cool to see that they extended. I've just got the time on how far ahead they are at the moment. At the moment it's 22 seconds ahead of the fleet. Coming up to around about 30 seconds ahead, there's Wild Oats going into attack onto port just as Blackjack rounds the mark. That's 35 seconds lead at the moment.
Well, that's a nice lead, but we're right in the camera cat in the middle of the heads. It's very sloppy, this water. It's chopped up by a lot of big Spectator craft and not much wind at all. So this will really suit Wild Oats and Blackjack, but that is a very, very nice lead to Wild Oats around the first mark, and they'd be very happy. They got a very good start. They basically led off the line, and Blackjack just couldn't go with them. Scallywag now furling up their reaching headsail.
She's about 30 seconds behind Blackjack.
Yeah, and a big gap to Infotrack.
So we can see some crew work happening on board these 3 Super Maxis, so bringing down their furling sails in the preparation for heading upwind. So what they do is they deploy the jibs first and then bring everything down.
And a little further seaward on Boxing Day last year, Peter Shipway, in your telecast, that fateful incident which eventually cost Wild Oats a time penalty of 1 hour and handed the race to Comanche.
Yes. So we've got Infotrack will be 4th round, and then Wild Oats 10, Winning Appliances, and a long way back is the Naval Group. But there's the race leader. Great shot of Wild Oats 11. Hard on the wind now, port tack. Very choppy water. Not much wind, but she's at good pressure. Hope you're taking your seasick tablets, Gordon. We're
There's a bit of a slop here.
We're rocking and rolling everywhere.
Yeah, so adding to the swell that we've got out here is all the Spectator craft. It's great to see so many people out here getting up close and personal with all these yachts.
She's 20 strong for Hobart. Mark Richards will be the new have 13, I think he's up to, Steve Jarvin.
He makes a few up. No, that's not true. He has a remarkable record, really. He's been on Wild Oats for all her 8 victories. He was on Condor a couple of times, Apollo, I think Nokia as well. So a phenomenal record.
And Matt Shillington, he's 24th. Robbie Naismith, he's 24th Hobart this year. And Glenn Burke is going down, the former 3-time world laser champion, 2-time world match racing champ, and 2-time Australian Yachtsman of the Year. He's the general manager of Hamilton Island and one of Australia's great sailors.
Yeah, Burke's first Hobart.
Do you give him any advice, Peter?
He doesn't need advice from me. But take your seasick tablets, Burkey.
So just for those watching at home, we've got Infotrack has just rounded that Canai Point mark, so a fair way behind the other 300 footers. We've got Wild Oats 11 leading, and they're probably the most, they're on the line of Blackjack, but Sung Hung Kai Scallywag is just to windward as they're going across the Sydney heads. So it's going to be interesting to see what happened. Sung Hung Kai Scallywag stayed down to leeward on the western shore coming up to Manly. So it'll be interesting. They're taking another tack and staying to windward, maybe to accelerate when they have a little bit more pressure.
Yeah, Wild Oats is, she got headed quite significantly there in the heads, but she's now coming up. We saw Blackjack tack off her hip, but now Wild Oats is coming up, lifting nicely on port tack. She wouldn't be laying Shark Island quite, but she'll be the west of Sound Pigs, and then Scallywag, as you say, she's right up on the hip of Blackjack. but it's Wild Oats at the moment. She's extended out on Blackjack to a nice, comfortable lead. So there's
Well, turning the tables, Peter, on last year, we might just pay a few bills if we may. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, your new gear is here. The latest range of CYCA and Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race merchandise is on sale now. So visit www.cyca.com.au and click on the shop tab. We deliver across Australia and around the world. And catch the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race from the water. There are limited Spectator vessel tickets still available for the start of the great race. Visit the RolexSydneyHobart.com to purchase yours today.
So beautiful shots of Blackjack on your screen with Sung Hong Kai Scallywag just fading out of the shot. They are on their way to Round Shark Island before coming back this way towards Canai Point for the second lap on the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge.
Well, the waters look reasonably calm around Blackjack, but when she broke the race record in the Hobart in 2012 and also Navigator on Loyal in 2016.
Yeah, we're seeing Wild Oats in a bit of drop pressure, and Blackjack has caught up quite significantly here. I don't know whether they could be looking at attack on Wild Oats. She's got a massive header heading into towards the Western Channel Pie-Light, Clifton Gardens, George's Head area, while Blackjack is storming up. She hasn't got this header yet. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wild Oats get ready to bail out. Perhaps not. They're going to wait to lift again. There's Scallywag. She's dropped into their line. So I think Blackjack has closed up a little on Wild Oats. Wild Oats still got reasonable pressure there now. There's Blackjack just going past the channel marker on the harbour off Obelisk Bay.
So remember that at the Canai Point rounding mark that Wild Oats 11 was about 35 seconds in front of Blackjack, and the difference now is definitely less than that. Wild Oats is dropped, as Peter was saying, dropped down on the line. They got a big header. They're now back up, but that's definitely a loss to Wild Oats 11 and a gain to Blackjack and the rest of the fleet.
It certainly will be if Blackjack can hook into this left hander that Wild Oats has got. It's going to be game on, game right on.
And Sun Hong Kai Scallywag is hanging in there as well, back in third place. Still probably 35 seconds behind Blackjack. So 3 boats at the head of the fleet here in the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge for 2018. It's Wild Oats 11 leading the way, but Blackjack now starting to throw down the challenge in second place.
She certainly is.
Scallywag in third place, skippered by the former world 18-foot skiff champion David Wendt.
There's Scallywag. We get close in on Blackjack. We can see that there we are, Blackjack to leeward there in the black. Simon Daubney, one of New Zealand's finest sailors, on the trim. Mark Bradford steering. Peter Harburg there with the white hat to leeward. He'd be liking what he's looking at here. They've come right around Wild Oats. Wild Oats will cross when they tack back. There's Brad Butterworth just behind Mark Bradford with the hat and the sunglasses.
Peter, a little bit of trivia there on Peter Harburg. His late father Clive Harburg called the last ball of the tied cricket test between Australia and the West Indies in Brisbane in 1960.
There you go.
It's a run out, it's a run out, it's a tie! It's a tie!
Gordon, stick to the sailing, will you?
There's plenty of action going on here, Gordon. So what we've just seen, we're following Blackjack along here. They're about 15 metres to windward of the Wedding Cake lighthouse on the western shore of Sydney Harbour, but Wild Oats 11 were a long way to leeward of it, so that's a really interesting kind of mark to tell whether who's sailing what kind of angle. Wild Oats 11 is popping around the bow of Blackjack, but they went through a bit of quite a loss. This race is not over.
No,
so you can see the battle for this first place between Wild Oats 11 and Blackjack on your screen from the beautiful drone shots.
just
Thanks to Aero Media for all of this great coverage, and Grinders Coffee for bringing it to you.
Blackjack just cannot get into the lift that Wild Oats is getting in. If she got into this lift, this big left-hander that Wild Oats is in, she would make life very tricky for Wild Oats. But she's coming around the bow nicely of Blackjack, and she's still in the lead, Wild Oats. They just can't get that lift.
You can see Peter, you can see the concentration and focus of Brad Butterworth, the ace tactician, the man who has won an Admiral's Cup for New Zealand, as you say, America's Cup tactician and skipper, successful, and just the calmness on board Blackjack is just standing out at the moment as they look for that lift to close the gap on Wild Oats 11.
One of the world's best, Brad. He also won a Whitbread round the world race with Peter Blake aboard Steinlager, the late Peter Blake. But Wild Oats he gritted his teeth there, Mark Richards and Ian Murray. They hung in. They could have bailed out and tacked and get across Blackjack. She didn't, and she's just lifted right around. She's been in better pressure, better lift the whole way through. And she will not clearly lead, but now just Blackjack just getting the lift. I think Brad Butterworth just waving some of the spectators away. He wants to tack perhaps.
Yes, so Peter, none of these boats have laid Shark Island. There will be some tacking involved. Reminder that the next part of the course is that there is a right-hand turn around Shark Island off Rose Bay before heading back to Kenai Point.
So there's the gap now, and it's basically back to what it was at the leeward mark, I think, Olivia. Now Blackjack just finally getting that lift. She never really got it.
No, I think it was because of that wind shear. There was a knock that Wild Oats 11 got, but it ended up being an advantage towards the back end of that part of the leg. They've now climbed up to almost on the line again of Blackjack. Yeah,
good nerves there, shown by, or lack of nerves by Mark Richards, Ian Murray and Glenn Burke to hang in there. And the Spectator fleet is getting larger. How's that seasickness, Gordon? You all right now?
Always got a smile on my face,
That's
Pete.
right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we're just enjoying a Grinders Coffee at the moment.
So just looking back at the rest of the fleet, whilst we've got a couple of seconds here, we've got Sung Hong Kai Scallywag, probably
Lost a bit of ground, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was just thinking that they have lost a little bit of ground, and that may have been just to the size of the boat, because we've got, although there are 400 footers in this race, there's also a bit of a difference between the width of these boats and the skills and the the traits of these boats. So Blackjack and Wild Oats 11 are both a skinnier style boat compared to Infotrack and Sung Hong Kai Scallywag.
So they'll leave Shark Island to starboard and then run around the back of the island between Point Piper and then jibe and run back to Kenai. So there's Wild Oats tacking now, so she's clear ahead. Well, a good lead. I would say she's probably extended by 15 to 20 seconds from the time they had at Kenai. She's going back on starboard into Rose Bay. And we'll take a bit of a shortcut in the camera cat.
There's a lot of tactics involved just to navigate your way through this Spectator fleet. I'm not sure if Blackjack would have wanted to tack earlier, but they probably couldn't, because the rest of this fleet, there are hundreds of Spectator fleet out here it's just really interesting to see, and Peter, you're doing a great job driving the camera cat here for us.
And Blackjack has to tack now because otherwise she's going to be colliding with Spectator craft.
Yeah, there she goes, just on the line of Wild Oats 11.
Yeah, they're both on starboard now, laying into Rose Bay, and clear advantage to Wild Oats 11. Looking back at the fleet, they're spread out now. Scallywag third, Info Track right up to windward on the Nielsen Park shore. She likes that eastern side of the harbour. Again, she'll find it very light up there, which is certainly not to her liking. And then
got Wild Oats 10 just off South Head on that windward line, similar to Info Tracks. And then we've got Winning Appliances, followed by Naval Group, down around Sound Pig. So they took the lower line, similar to what Blackjack and Wild Oats 11 did. So we'll be seeing them as we come back around once everyone's round Shark Island.
And getting that lovely pressure out of Rose Bay, Wild Oats 11.
Yep, they're standing up very well in there. Blackjack, not much she can do, just follow her line in.
But as you say, Peter, Wild Oats has probably doubled that lead they had at the first rounding mark. Just around a minute at the moment. And Sun Hung Kai Scallywag is about to tack.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
Sun
Hung Kai Scallywag.
Right.
Yes, that's it.
Keep practicing.
From the Hong Kong, from the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club. And
So
they're
we've
tacking now.
Yeah, we've just seen Wild Oats 11 tacking, laying Shark Island. So it will be Wild Oats 11 who rounded the first mark first and is now rounding the second mark in first place. They held on to that lead down heading south on Sydney Harbour and have built themselves a couple of seconds lead.
Just see there, when we in on camera, they're sneaking up the reaching sail to the top of the mast. They lock it off at the top of the mast and then they grind the tack down so it's bone tight so they can get a good unfurl. Very good crew. I think these two boats have shown today that they've had good experience. They know how to work together. It's like any good team sport. You can't have one weak link. Everyone's got to know what they're doing. And coming up to the turning mark now, there's a lot of spectator craft. Can't even see the turning mark. It's obscured by people that shouldn't be here. But anyway, where is that mark? I was popping out now.
There it is now, Peter.
Yes.
Yep.
And they'll unfurl here and run round the back of Shark, jibe, and then race away again to Canai. Where's the totem pole? Okay. Sorry, I just got to do a bit of navigation. I'll talk to myself. Okay.
Again, exemplary crew work from Wild Oats 11.
Yep, they haven't put a foot wrong. At the time here, Olivia, I think it'll be quite a big extension in time. There's the unfurl on Wild Oats now. Big reaching sail.
So just in your screen you can see Blackjack just popping behind Wild Oats 11 there, and Sung Hung Kai Scallywag just behind them on the left hand side of your screen.
Bit of a problem on Wild Oats. It hasn't unfurled properly. See at the top, the sail hasn't unfurled. It should come out, I think. We'll try and get a clearer view. No, it's still... There's Blackjack now. What's the delta there, Olivia?
So that's 45 seconds on the clock there. So that is an extension of about 10 to 15 seconds. Peter, this part of the race is really interesting. It's quite heavy crew work related, isn't it? Once you pull the furling sail up, you've got to pull it out and then roll into a jibe really quickly.
Yeah, they've unfurled successfully now on Wild Oats. And there's Blackjack, she's unfurled nicely. It's just timing the jibe here because there is a bit of a lee on round the back of Shark Island. They'll run away on port and then have to time their jibe to get maximum pressure. So Blackjack's come around with a bit more pressure than Wild Oats. She's got a bit lower. There goes the jibe now on Wild Oats. It's an outside jibe, which means the sheet goes round the front, or is it inside jibe? Oh, it's a furling. That's a furling. Sorry, they're furling round the head stay, and out she comes.
And there's the deploy.
Yeah, good job.
Well, she did an outside jibe at this point last year, Peter, and lost several boat lengths, so they've taken that on board.
As you can see, it's quite light there on Wild Oats 11 underneath Shark Island here. As we were saying, it is about 11 knots here on Sydney Harbour today from the southeast.
Still a lot of yacht race to go here. Blackjack's not that far away. Quite soft where Wild Oats is. Wild Oats 11 now, Olivia. Look at the big headsail, just struggling
fluttering,
to get,
isn't
just
it?
struggling to get a bit of pressure in it.
They're probably doing 3 or 4 knots at the moment, Peter.
Oh, yeah, a little bit more perhaps, but
So Blackjack setting up for their jibe.
almost jibing on an identical spot.
Yes.
And the Wild Oats leaning over there, canting the keel so she leans over. That's not wind pressure that's forcing her over, it's the keel not out to the windward side. And here comes Blackjack. She's
Again, her chute's been deployed superbly.
got to go outside that exclusion mark. Or is she? Where is she?
Yes.
Yeah, she's
Definitely close the gap here, Blackjack.
Yeah. But now Wild Oats is into the pressure. She's out of the lee. Blackjack is suffering the same as Wild Oats did.
Yes, they seem to have a bit more momentum from their jibe though, Peter.
Yeah.
So their jib wasn't fluttering just as much. I've got the clock running from where that exclusion mark zone was, so I'll let you know.
I reckon they
But it's
picked up 10 or
definitely-
15 seconds, Olivia.
Is that your bet, Gordon?
Yeah, I'd say 10 seconds. A couple of good deployments.
Scallywag is round. She hasn't unfurled yet.
So that's 31 seconds there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done, Gordon.
And away they go to Canai again. So they'll go down here and then around Canai, and then they'll be finish bound. But there's Blackjack. She's just got a really good gust there, which will assist her. And they'll run off. We'll just go with the 2 leaders.
So beautiful shots here. You can see Wild Oats 11 and Blackjack heading down towards Canai Point. 31 seconds separated them at Shark Island exclusion zone.
No battery warning.
And that was roughly the margin at the Canai Point mark as well, first time.
Yes.
Sun Hong Kai Scallywag is about to jibe. They're trailing by maybe a minute and a half behind Blackjack.
So just to the right of your screen, you can see Wild Oats 10, the all-female professional crew, also representing Ocean Respect Racing. They're making their way up to the Shark Island mark, and they'll just disappear off your screen and then come back around Shark Island.
Doing a great job, aren't they, Olivia? Stacey Jackson, the skipper, will be going down on her 12th Rolex Sydney Hobart. She's done a couple of Volvos, and I think overall they've got 68 Hobarts in their crew, in the all-female crew, 21 round the world races, 3 America's Cups, 4 Olympics, and that boat finished only 6.5 hours behind the 2 Super Maxis last year to Hobart.
Yes, Gordon, so just on the right of the screen, that's Winning Appliances, and they're just behind Wild Oats 10. So Wild Oats 10 is a 66-footer and Winning Appliances is a 60-footer. So well done, Winning Appliances, for getting right in there. They had the call of the day with the start, so it put them in a great position to come back towards Shark Island.
We always get our white goods from Winning Appliances, John Winning, Junior and Senior on board, and they're doing a fantastic job.
Also, John Winning Senior's wife and John Winning Junior's mother's on board. She's one of
Wow.
the same person, of course, but young John Winning gave his mother the prize. He bid for a place on the boat and told his mother last night that she was going sailing. She was a bit apprehensive this morning when we spoke to her, but I'm sure she's enjoying this. It'd be hard not to.
What about the daughter and son-in-law, Peter? Or are they back on the
They're back on the
equestrian
horses, I think.
Yes,
So
yes.
they didn't get a gong.
So just passing to windward of Blackjack there was Naval Group. So they've just popped outside of the screen, so they're making their way back to Shark Island at the moment, and they are coming up the rear.
Last of the Rykel Pew 65s to be built by the Conakey's Yard in Australia. Naval Group, Sean Langman.
Launched as Money Penny. She's a fair way back today, which is a bit surprising, but nonetheless, the leaders keep on keeping on.
Yes, some French naval personnel, Australian naval personnel, and as Sean said, he wants to see how they all get on. Different temperaments.
Bit hard to decide that in the middle of Bass Strait if you don't like someone.
Je ne comprends pas.
So the two leaders approaching the Western Channel pile, and it's still Wild Oats, clear leader from Blackjack. Wild Oats 11, of course, and quite a distant third now is Scallywag. They're all reaching, close reaching. Breeze has stayed pretty much the same, maybe 10 knots at most, or likely 8, 9 knots the majority of the track.
And just Peter and Olivia, just to emphasise how close these two boats are, I think the margin was something like 40 seconds last year when it was the SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, with Blackjack reversing the roles, but in 2018 it's Wild Oats 11 who had a very good start towards the pin end of the line where they love to be, and they've really controlled the race since that very good start. But Blackjack is nipping at their stern and certainly keeping its hopes alive.
So I think, as we predicted, that the start was so crucial in this short, quick race, and just by half a boat length or even less, Wild Oats put his bow out, and that's told a bit of a story. And here's Sun Hong Kai Scallywag.
Beautiful shots of Sydney Harbour here. So Sun Hong Kai Scallywag is sitting in third in this Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge.
Yes, the owner, Lee Seng Huang, is the executive chairman of Sun Hong Kai in Hong Kong, a $44 billion Hong Kong dollar finance company. So they're certainly well serviced, and they've got a great crew.
So a lot of the crew on board that boat have been involved in the Team Hong Song Kai program for quite a while. They've got Volvo Ocean Races, Rolex Sydney Hobarts, World Champions. They've got a stacked crew on board there with a bunch of new sails we saw earlier too.
Well, they competed in, as you're saying, Olivia, in the Volvo and the Volvo Ocean 65s, and what a great thrill for them, for the owner Lee Seng Huang, to actually win the leg into Hong Kong for the first time, one of 12 legs on the Volvo Round the World race, 46,000 nautical miles, and a great thrill for Lee Seng Huang, a former Scots College in Sydney Old Boy and Sydney University, and David Witt, his ace skipper. So they actually won that leg into Hong Kong.
Just look at this massive reaching sail on Scallywag. Not much pressure, but she's just smoking along, and she'll come in. It's the Western Channel pile, and she's probably 3 or 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes behind second place Blackjack.
Peter, when you talk about the Rolex Sydney Hobart, Mark Richards makes the point that this Round the Boys race on Sydney Harbour for the Super Maxis has no relevance to the Sydney Hobart. He says it's all about fine-tuning your crew work and building on your teamwork, and in that sense Scallywag will be quite pleased by her performance here today. David Witt flew in from Phuket from the King's Cup only yesterday, Michael Coxon the sailing master, but they're going to be a real contender in the Rolex Sydney Hobart.
Yes, they haven't done much sailing on the boat. As I said earlier, it's all about teamwork. Yeah, they'll be relatively pleased. I mean, there's no relevance really between this race and the Hobart race. But, It's always nice to win any race you're in. I think Wild Oats boys will be pretty happy at the moment, but there's still got to get round Canai, back round, down back on the harbour, and it's still tricky because this breeze is up and down. There's a lot of shifts in it.
And Peter, we've got a good shot of Scallywag here at the moment, and how much fatter she is at the stern to the other two Rykel pews, the 100-footers. But you were on board Comanche the other day. That was quite an experience.
Yes, she's
like an aircraft character.
Yeah, exactly. I just stood in the bow and just looked back, and having sailed on Wild Oats, she's pencil thin compared to Comanche. She's just a weapon and a half, and big beamy boat. And any sort of breeze, she's going to take a power of beating to Hobart. But to finish first you have to finish. So Wild Oats know all about that.
The 2018 SOLAS Big Boat Challenge is proudly sponsored by Grinders Coffee for the first time. Grinders Coffee, through their master roasters, is dedicated to sourcing, roasting and delivering the best single origin and blended coffees in Australia. The 2018 SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, proudly sponsored by Grinders Coffee.
And don't forget to join in the conversation with our hashtags on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So hashtag Grinders Coffee SBBC. Send us some photos of what you're seeing out here. There's plenty of spectators that I know are watching this race and getting involved. So make sure that you keep us in touch and get your photos up on social media.
Well, we're all proud to be members of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, and you too can join the club, Australia's premier yacht club. Visit cyca.com.au and click on membership to learn more. But it certainly is a wonderful facility, great camaraderie, and you'll never be lost for a word down at the Cruising Yacht Club, Peter.
No, there's always plenty of experts there.
Lots of rock stars.
Oh yes, especially after 10 o'clock at night.
So here we see InfoTrack sitting in 4th place in the race today. So they've just come past that Western Channel Wedding Cake Lighthouse. They are sitting in 4th of our 100-footers. Definitely one of the beamier boats that we've got here in the race today.
Yeah, she set the course record in the Hobart in 2016 when she was known as Perpetual Loyal, big, heavy, wide boat. She'll be looking for a big, hard Hobart. A thrash to windward in 20-30 knots will suit her.
Yeah, that time was well and truly break the record. 1 day, 13 hours, 31 minutes in 2016. Owned by technology millionaire Christian Beck, who'll be going down on his second Rolex Sydney Hobart. And he was last year's Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. And he's the founder of InfoTrack and also Leap. They provide tools for people and businesses on how to connect, interact and access information.
So just further down the track for everyone, just keeping you up to date, Wild Oats 11 has rounded the Canai Point mark near Manly, just off North Head. So we'll keep you updated with all that information. So right now we're on InfoTrack, but Wild Oats 11 has rounded in first.
And looks as though they may have opened up that 31-second lead.
Yes, Gordon, they've definitely extended. So I'll let you know when Blackjack rounds. It's just in the back end of the screen that people can see. But right now we're over 40 seconds, at least 45. So that's the biggest we've seen in this Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge so far.
So Blackjack about to go round. And how's that margin looking?
So that's a minute. So that's the longest that we have seen. That was about the distance from first to third at the first rounding mark at Canai Point. So a whole lap of the harbour, and Wild Oats 11 had doubled her lead.
So Wild Oats will now beat back to Shark Island, and then that final finishing straight to the Opera House in the 2018 Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge.
And the breeze still in that 6 to 8 to 10 knots area. So it's going to be a light beat back up to the next turning mark. And you'd say that Wild Oats is holding all the aces at the moment. Just coming back through the rest of the fleet as they run down towards Canai. Next boat will be Wild Oats 10, the junior Wild Oats.
And they're very focused on the handicap prize this year. Stacey Jackson, the all-female crew, have a wonderful crew, so much experience, and we know how quick that boat can be.
Yeah, so Andrew Van Sickle on Facebook is asking how many drones we've got out here today. So thanks to Aero Media, we've got 2 drones circling this race course, plus the camera on board the camera cat here, just keeping you up to date with what everything's going on this race course.
And just to let you know who the voices are here, Olivia Price thrilled the sailing world and Australian supporters when she won the silver medal in the London Olympics women's match racing. Her crew, Lucinda Whitty and Nina Curtis, won 11 straight races in the round robin, and they lost the final by 3 races to 2. There was a little bit of bad luck there. They were so close to the gold medal. So you've got a wonderful sailor in Olivia Price as Wild Oats 10 just goes past. And Peter Shipway, 31 Rolex Sydney Hobarts, 5 line honours victories and 2 handicap wins. And Peter, will we see you going down again on Love and War in the 75th race?
Oh, you never say never, but right at the moment I'm
sorry to put you on the spot there.
Quite comfortable going home to my bed each night during the race. But oh look,
I think your daughter Grace is pretty keen to go down with you, isn't she?
Yeah, Grace gets keen on Boxing Day. That's all she wants to do. But for the other 364 days, she's not that interested. So.
So some beautiful shots of Sydney Harbour here.
And here's Winning Appliances. Is this Winning? No, on Winning Appliances now.
Built in Dubai, Matt Allen's Itchy Barn, the Carkeek 60, and has been loaned to John Winning Jr. and Senior. And the family members all well and truly on board. Tommy Spithill, brother of James, Sevi Jarvin, whose brother Steve is on Wild Oats 11. His father, sorry, with 13 line honours victories.
Yeah.
So we saw Winning Appliances take the race, the start win. We all thought that win would end at the line. Might have been a bit of a struggle, but Winning Appliances definitely launched off the line. For a 60-footer, it kept up with those hundreds till Shark Island.
Yeah. She had that big full spinnaker, which I think helped her in the lighter air.
That was definitely her moment in the sun at the start. It was a daring, brilliant start by John Winning.
So we've got to remember in this Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, there is the overall win for the IRC divisional wins, and that's who really takes home that trophy.
Just on that, for example, that for every hour sailed, Wild Oats 11 has got to give Winning Appliances 19 minutes. So, how long have we been racing, Olivia?
Good question. Coming up to almost an hour.
Okay, so I think she's less than 19 minutes behind her. So
and what about Wild Oats 10 as a threat on handicap to Winning Appliances, Peter?
They've got to give each... Wild Oats 10 has got to give 6 minutes. An hour. Yes, we will. That's still on Winning Appliances. There's in the back right corner is Kerry Winning, wife of John Senior and mother of John Junior.
So just about to pop out through your screen is, there she is, Wild Oats 11 coming back towards Shark Island as the last turning mark, with Blackjack closely following.
Yes, the margin around a minute as they went round the Cano Point mark. But Wild Oats 11 is leading the way, charging down now towards Shark Island before we get to the finishing line at the Opera House, Port Denison.
What's happened here is the breeze has increased slightly, probably 1 or 2 knots, but the Spectator fleet has dispersed quite dramatically. So they've got a really good clear run basically now from, although there's a few boats around them, there's not many in front of them, and they've got a pretty clear track now from Sow and Pigs up into Shark Island, where once again the Spectator fleet will gather. And they're both close haul, port tack. There's a great shot of Wild Oats, just past Sow and Pigs Reef. Standing quite high, she's a bit higher than last time on port tack. See that keel canted out to windward. It moves, the big hydraulic ram pushes that from side to side to give the boat stability, and then she's on a terrific lift now. She's pointing right up into almost to Nielsen Park, so just to be a bit tricky up there under the, if they get too high, there's a bit of a lee in this east-southeasterly breeze. But she's holding all the aces at the moment.
Mark Richards made the comment at the Rolex media launch for the Sydney Hobart that the Super Maxis are in a sense amalgamating through their modifications and new sales towards a more complete all-weather performer. So they're all of these Super Maxis are trying to improve on their weaknesses, and that's why the money's being spent and the fine-tuning never stops. And it's just amazing to think that this is Wild Oats' 14th straight season of world-class performance.
Yeah, we had massive transformation on Wild Oats, of course, when they cut the boat basically in half and put some on the front and some off the back and moved the mast without moving the mast, if you know what I mean. But they never stopped developing these boats, and all the crews are very lucky that the owners have got the wherewithal to support this development, because it is changing pretty quickly.
His naval group, Sean Langman, built in 2008. 65-footer. V for victory there from Sean Langman. You never ever write him off in Sydney Hobart calculations.
Bringing up the rear at the moment, but here we are on the race leader. She's bringing up the front. Standing hot, lovely lift on port tack. Looking back behind her, Blackjack hasn't got anywhere the pressure or the lift she's got, and she's extending even further now. It's just nice breeze now where she's coming into it. Nielsen Park and Steel Point.
Yeah, so you can see that lift that Wild Oats is on that Peter was talking about. At the moment, they're easily laying Shark Island. So what the tricky part is, this time around, it looks like there is more pressure up on this eastern side of Sydney Harbour up towards Nielsen Park. So Wild Oats will be able to press through it and sail a faster mode rather than having to work on their height and defend their position that they had to last time that they were up here.
Blackjack now is just into that lift and the same pressure that Wild Oats had. And where we are, we're just coming up to Wild Oats now, off a bow off, we're just off Nielsen Park. There's good, nice pressure coming round Steel Point and out of Rose Bay.
You still can't write off Blackjack in this situation. She's still in contact.
Yes, indeed.
Trailing by less than a minute. So one little mistake and suddenly the whole complexion can change.
Wild Oats heading now, Blackjack lifting. They've got to get through this tricky part. It's quite tricky here. And Ian Murray
in 10 seconds.
would be helping Mark Richards. He knows this harbour pretty well.
So it's great to see on our screen just before that we have the track overlay of the tracking system that we're using for the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. It's interesting to see, you know, the ladder rungs and where they're heading in this race. It's keeping it tight.
And we've never seen 4 Super Maxis involved in the Big Boat Challenge. So history created here today, and Wild Oats 11. The People's Boat really showing the way with another superb performance.
Down to leeward, Robbie Naismith from New Zealand trimming the jib. Rodney Daniels in the pit.
23 Sydney Hobarts for Robbie Naismith.
She's just getting the breeze round Steel Point now. I don't think she'll lay. She'll have 2 more tacks and in, but she'd
have to lose it from here. She's got a commanding lead.
So the fleet is heading back up to Shark Island as the rounding mark. They will do a right-hand turn before heading to the finish off Sydney Opera House, right in front of the Harbour Bridge.
Yeah, it's going to be a great finish, great sight. But all wild oats. There's great overhead shot.
Probably about a mile from Shark Island now.
She's getting a nice port hand lift here, left-hander. She'll be just under the ley line.
Just going past Nielsen Park.
Yeah. Crew just starting to get ready. Unfurl the reaching sail, which she'll get down the harbour with once she rounds the mark. Still light though, it's not much breeze. Be lucky to be 10 knots.
Low battery warning.
And just over that last couple of minutes, Wild Oats has managed to increase her lead. Really got into some nice pressure, a nice lift. Blackjack trailing by round about a minute.
So Peter, I just want to take us back to what we were talking about on those time correctors for the overall win on IRC. I've got 13.5 minutes from when Wild Oats 11 went round the Kenai Point mark, and I've just looked back to see where Winning Appliances is, and it looks like they're pretty close to it. So you said 19 minutes on the hour?
Yes.
And we're just ticking over to that hour, and it's about 14 minutes, so they're looking pretty good.
I would think so. Certainly favours a smaller boat and a well-sailed smaller boat, and we saw Winning Appliances got a ripper of a start. So both boats, the leaders, Wild Oats 11 and Blackjack, Port Tack laying in towards Shark Island, just come round Steel Point at Nielsen Park, which is the traditional starting line area for the Rolex Sydney to Hobart race, which takes place in just over 2 weeks' time. A fleet of 89 boats, I think, are going to be racing south to Hobart in the 74th Sydney Hobart race.
And that number could be doubled for the 75th in 2019.
There's a lot of things planned to make it a spectacular race. We saw 307 boats for the 50th race in 1994. And I know a lot of boats are coming out of mothballs or getting prepared for next year's 75th race.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a spectacle, isn't it? To have all those boats, I know that there's plenty planned to come and join the celebrations of the 75th anniversary of the Rolex Sydney Hobart.
You might do it, Gordon, do you think? That's what I've heard.
Yes, well, it's been a long time between drinks, Peter. The last one was 1984, where I nearly got washed overboard.
Okay, there's Wild Oats. Hope no one gets washed overboard from her, but she's just tacked. She laid into Shark Island, and about 100 metres short of the island she tacked, and she's laying on, and Blackjack's tacked to leeward of her. So she's just trying to throw anything that she can at her, but the distance is quite significant between these two. Still not much wind.
No, so interesting tactic for Blackjack to tack early underneath Wild Oats. It could be possibly for a setup reason, having a little bit more time on port tack on lay into that Shark Island mark.
So they'll unfurl at this mark and just get down in one, I think, to the finish. I don't think there'll be any jibing. Okay, here comes Wild Oats. She's tacked on the ley line.
Yeah, it looks like a tight ley line there, Peter.
Yeah, very tight. Very tight ley line. Jib not quite in yet. What's going on, boys? Come on.
So as we were saying earlier in this race, the crew work is just as important as the tactics made.
Blackjack has just tacked and close enough to apply pressure here to Wild Oats 11.
See the crew working on the furling sail. They'll just sneaking to the top of the mast now. You can
A couple of metres to go.
Yeah, they'll lock it off there. Hydraulic winches will hoist that sail. Now it comes out to the bow. See Timmy Wiseman up on the bow, just making sure it's ready to unfurl. It's all tricky componentry. You've got to unfurl properly. Any mistake that doesn't unfurl, you'll really get yourself chicken winged up.
Please check it on.
Here they go there. On the mark.
The all-important jibe here for Wild Oats 11.
No, I think they'll just bear away, Gordon. Yep. I don't think they'll jibe. I think it'll be one leg. They just go to the finish now. Just bear away. Here they go. Board's coming up. You see that centre board up near the mast. One of the two centre boards. There's the unfurl. Let's have a look at this one. Close action here. Okay.
That's more like it, isn't it, Peter?
Yeah, that's nice.
Clean unfurl from Wild Oats 11 there at the Shark Island mark.
And a good puff too to get around in.
That's exactly what they're looking for. A nice little one to take them further down the racecourse towards the finish at the Opera House and leave Blackjack in their wake.
Just let her go.
Yeah, that was her best deploy. And it's setting sail for the finishing line now for Wild Oats 11. Blackjack
So Blackjack
round
just
about a minute behind.
heading to that mark. We've got 49 seconds, 50 seconds on the clock, the delta between Wild Oats 11 in first and Blackjack in second.
Okay, the charge is on to the finish. Spectators and race boats alike. Just have to get our drone down and we're off too.
And the roles, as we mentioned, have been reversed. This time last year it was Blackjack leading Wild Oats 11 by a similar margin on this stretch of water to the finishing line at the Opera House.
Blackjack is around. It's unfurled, but Wild Oats looking pretty safe. It's going to get a bit lighter up as they approach Garden Island, I would think, but there's nice pressure streaming out of Double Bay, and that's what Wild Oats is in at the moment. She's got a lot more pressure than Blackjack.
Peter, do you think there's a sail differential between Wild Oats 11 and Blackjack here?
It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, Wild Oats 11 look like they have a bigger furling sail up than Blackjack. It looks like their clue is just a little bit higher, so just not holding as much power.
I agree with that, yes.
Interesting choices.
Yep. It's all about, isn't it, getting the sail selection right, but at the moment you'd have to say Wild Oats has got it pretty right. She's in a lot more pressure than Blackjack. There's Blackjack now. See, she's struggling for a bit of pressure. She's got to put the bow up to try and get a bit more pressure. The charge of the Light Brigade is on here. The Spectators are all coming around Bradley's Head, chasing Wild Oats as she runs out of a little bit of breeze herself. She's got to put the bow up to maintain the pressure. We're doing our best to keep up, but it's not good enough at the moment as Wild Oats just soft near Clark Island, and now Blackjack's turn to put the bow down and come steaming up with a bit more pressure, but you'd have to say Wild Oats is pretty safe.
About a mile and a half to the finish now for Wild Oats 11. And a masterclass from tactician Ian Murray, who is the high performance director for the Australian Olympic sailing team for Tokyo 2020.
Don't forget Glenn Burke. He'll be very dark if you don't mention him, Gordon. I think he's doing a few of the tactics as well. But between them, pretty a lot of competence, let me tell you. Berkey gets a bit stressed these days, so you've got to be nice to him.
Well, he's looking after a staff of 1,200 on Hamilton Island, so That's enough to put anyone under stress.
He couldn't manage himself 20 years ago, so he's done a pretty good job. Love you, Berkey.
Some fabulous shots here of Wild Oats 11 steaming down to the Sydney Opera House to the finish, and Blackjack closely following, along with hundreds of spectator craft out here. It's great to see everyone out here supporting sailing, and especially this is one of the fantastic days on the harbour. The Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge is fantastic, and it's probably only second to the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race start.
And don't forget to share the love. Hit the share button to help show your friends and family what you're watching and what the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge is all about. And don't forget your new gear, the latest range of CYCA and Rolex Sydney Hobart merchandise on sale now. Visit www.cyca.com.au and click on the shop tab. And also, the start of the race, you can be on the water. There are limited spectator vessel tickets still available for the start of the great race on Boxing Day. Visit RolexSydneyHobart.com to purchase yours today.
Well, the race leader, Wild Oats 11, approaching Garden Island, not far from the finish now, which will be to the east of the famous Sydney Opera House. She's got a commanding 300 or 400 metre lead over Blackjack. There's Wild Oats.
So you can see the distance between Wild Oats 11 in first and Blackjack in second extended from what Peter called was a really good pressure coming out of Double Bay. Wild Oats 11 just extended out of that top mark at Shark Island and left Blackjack in its wake.
Yeah, nice confidence boost for Wild Oats. As we said earlier, it really doesn't mean much as regards Rolex Sydney Hobart, but it's nice to have your opposition behind you.
It's a bit of bragging rights, right, Peter?
I guess so. I mean, last year Blackjack did a fine job. Not that I haven't done this time, but they just were a little bit better than Wild Oats last year. This is a nice victory for the Wild Oats camp.
Just for the race behind these first two, Sung Hung Kai Scallywag has just rounded rounded that Shark Island mark, and Infotrack is still on the other side of Shark Island, so not too far behind Scallywag, but there's a lot of distance between these first two and the rest of the fleet.
And Winning Appliances, the Car Kick 60, John Winning, in very good shape, you think, Olivia, for the handicap honours today?
Definitely, you know, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be down to the wire. You know, Wild Oats 11 has sailed a beautiful race here, and the handicap should be working in the little boats, but you never know. This final push towards the finish might be all that they need.
We're in the middle of Bass Strait here with all this spectator craft, but we're hanging in, and Wild Oats now puts the bow up again. She's round Garden Island, and she's bound for the finish. Can we see the finishing boat? Oh yes, I see the finishing boat. She's got about 200 to 300 metres to go to the finish. And she's really got some good pressure out of Garden Island, Lady Macquarie's chair.
Yeah, so this is the finishing moments of the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. Wild Oats 11 sitting in first, and Blackjack just rounding Garden Island behind us.
Yep, convincing victory. They've really extended on those other boats. Gee.
Wild Oats 11 then, the People's Boat, her 14th straight season of racing since her launch in 2005. Mark Richards and the boys did a great job at the start. They won the start of the Super Maxis. They've controlled the race since then, and they're about to cross the finishing line in 2018 in the Grinders Coffee Roasters SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. Wild Oats 11, another triumph for Mark Richards and his team.
Just like one of the Winning Appliances washing machines here, Gordon, I think. Dear, oh dear. Boats everywhere. Okay, there she...
More a front-end loader, I think, Peter.
Yeah. There she is. putting the bow down now. Very close to the finish.
There's the finish there.
Yep, so she's across.
Beautiful sailing from Wild Oats 11. Apart from that first unfurl, there really wasn't much that was wrong about that race, was there?
No.
Just around about an hour and 14 minutes, Olivia.
Yep, just about that.
There's
So
the
just-
second place, Blackjack.
And the spirit of the late Bob Oatley, I'm sure, with all the Wild Oats 11 crew. And his son Sandy Oatley, who just so proudly and vehemently supports this great people's boat, Wild Oats 11.
So there's Blackjack coming in second behind Mrs. Macquarie's chair in the Botanic Gardens. Beautiful shot of our city of Sydney and the Sydney Opera House.
Mark Bradford, navigator Tom Addis, and the legendary Brad Butterworth on board Blackjack as she comes across in second place.
So I'm sure the crew of Wild Oats 11 are very happy now, just stamping a bit of authority in the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge.
Yes, and the drone giving us a great shot.
It's been great to have 2 drones out here plus the camera cat, and then we even have some footage from on-board Naval Group. So it's been great. Thanks to everyone for producing this this fine thing at the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge.
So just wrapping up then, it's Wild Oats 11 from Blackjack. In third place, Sun Hung Kai Scallywag with David Witt. Then followed by Infotrack, Winning Appliances, Wild Oats 10 and Naval Group, completing the 7 starters in the 2018 version of the Grinders Coffee Roasters SOLAS Big Boat Challenge.
So thanks for everyone watching. We are moving back through the fleet now, so we'll bring you all the up-to-date information on the rest of the fleet at the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. At the moment, we have Sung Hung Kai Scallywag in front of Infotrack, so that's 3rd and 4th in this race. And then we are yet to see the rest of the fleet behind Shark Island, so we'll definitely keep you updated as best we can. We're moving our way back through this washing machine that is the Spectator craft fleet.
And look, if you have any questions of Olivia Price or Peter Shipway, don't forget to get involved in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Tag your content and comments with Grinders Coffee SBBC hashtag.
Yeah, we've had some great interaction with everyone that's been watching from elsewhere. We've had some Wisconsin, we've had a couple of overseas and also around the country, so it's great to see you and hear from you guys. If you've got any questions, please let us know. As Gordon said, we're happy to answer to the best of our knowledge.
Well, it's pretty good knowledge, I can tell you that much, with Olivia Price and Peter Shipway. And I must say, Olivia, Peter's done a superb job steering the camera cat and commentating at the same time.
We've got to get to the dock yet, Gordon.
No, the multitasking is very evident. Thanks,
Well,
Peter.
His multitasking is notably absent at home, according to his wife, Jo. So she'll be very impressed to hear that he's come through with flying colours.
thing is, just getting back to the race, Scallywag and Infotrack have disappeared behind Garden Island. I think they ran out of pressure and they had to heat right up into Rushcutters Bay, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're not jibing out on starboard.
Yes, so Infotrack has jibed out onto starboard there.
Closed right up on Scallywag, haven't they?
Yeah,
Yes.
they have.
So Scallywag did have a bit of a messy deploy when I was looking back, about 30 seconds after they rounded Shark Island Mark. So it maybe took them a bit of time to figure that out. As we did say, it is a little bit lighter, even at this finish position. What do you think, Peter? Maybe 6 or 7 rather than 9 or 10?
Yes, yeah, and because of the Spectator craft, it's very joggly water. Yeah. So we'll just see them appearing now around Garden Island. There's Infotrack. She's jibing back onto port to try and lay into the finish. We'll try and find Scallywag. She'll be hidden in behind the Garden Island shore.
Yeah, so just on your
soft.
screen, it is soft for Scallywag there, and still has been on port the whole time from Shark Island. Infotrack just left your screen, has just jibed onto starboard, and looks like in the main channel of the harbour here, looks like a little bit more pressure.
Yeah, well, Infotrack's got good pressure. She's just furled and then jibed, as they do, and there's Scallywag just trying to poke its nose around Garden Island. She's gone back to a headsail, has she? She hasn't got a reaching sail up.
This seems really weird.
I think Infotrack's going to get it home in third place here. She's
Peter-
barreling in.
Peter, this is a bit like one of those spooky finishes in the Derwent,
Yes.
when the breeze has died and you're struggling to get across the line. The race can be won and lost in the Derwent River in the Rolex Sydney Hobart. But what frustration here for Scallywag.
I don't know quite what she did because we lost them behind the point. She's got...
Do you think maybe they don't have a full inventory of sails on board and didn't have the option to maybe bring out a more fuller kite?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. She's just on a conventional headsail, and there's Infotrack barreling in to leeward of her, and I think she's going to get there third. Scallywag's trying to get down around the Garden Island mark, and you can see there she's little or no pressure. In the distance with the white spinnaker, I think that's Wildade's 10. She's round Shark Island. She's got good pressure, barreling across Point Piper. She'll get the pressure out of Double Bay. And there's Infotrack now. Yeah, she's got round the bow of Scallywag. Infotrack will get third. I don't know whether there was some misadventure on Scallywag that we missed.
Yeah, so really good decision making by all those on board Infotrack to take the jibe out. Whether or not there was a problem on Sunghun Kai Scallywag or not, I think it was still a great decision. It was very light up in Rushcutters Bay, and Infotrack came and took the advantage by coming out into the main channel of the harbour and picking up an extra few knots of breeze.
This is an excellent result for the Greenwich Flying Squadron. Owner Christian Beck, Tony Mutter the skipper, boat captain Brad Kellett, who will be competing in his 27th straight Rolex Sydney Hobart this year, and also the round the world sailors Bowie Becking from the Netherlands, Stu Bannatyne, the ace New Zealander, and Australian navigator Andrew Cape, who'll be competing in his 18th. But that's a brilliant effort by Infotrack to get through.
Yeah, all
Han
smiles
Sun Kai
on board
Scallywag.
there.
No, Scallywag's had some issues there. They're just waddling towards the finishing line. Oh, sorry.
And from memory, Peter, they had some foiling issues 2 years ago in the SOLAS big boat race, which really cost them very dearly.
Yeah, I think it's probably a function of not doing much sailing with the boat. These boats are very complex. From the top of the mast to the bottom of the keel, they're not like normal yachts. There are just so many systems and things that can go wrong. One little problem manifests itself into big problems.
Especially in such a short harbour race that we've got here today for the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge. One mistake, as we can see, really hurts. you don't have the time to catch up. We've been on the race course for an hour and a bit, an hour and 25 minutes. So in that shorter period, there's just not enough racetrack to hunt people down.
And there was a little one-way traffic. There weren't many passing lanes really in the whole race. But anyway, that's the way it goes.
So just updating you on the rest of the fleet whilst I'm looking back. So Sung Hung Kai Scallywag is still teetering along with just a conventional jib going past Garden Island. Wild Oats 10 is in the main channel of the harbour, halfway between Shark Island and the finish line here at the Sydney Opera House. Winning Appliances is just around Clark Island on the run line to the finish. And then I'm just looking at Naval Group, about to round the Shark Island mark. So the back end of this fleet is very spread out. So it's going to come down to the wire in terms of the IRC overall win on the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge.
So Olivia and Peter, I think that just about wraps us up. I think you've covered that beautifully, Olivia. The 2018 SOLAS Big Boat Challenge, proudly sponsored by Grinders Coffee, through their master roasters dedicated to sourcing, roasting and delivering the best single origin and blended coffees in Australia. Thank you all for watching. On behalf of Peter Shipway and Olivia Price, Gordon Bray signing off from Sydney Harbour as we bid you farewell from the Grinders Coffee SOLAS Big Boat Challenge.
Time stands still when you look my way.